We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Hey Amud Beis Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 35b. And the previous Amud, the Gemara just learned out that the begadim the Kohen Gadol wears in the morning are nicer than the begadim he wears in the afternoon on Yom Kippur. So the Gemara now says, Meisvei, we have the following question. This is a question from a pasuk in Yecheskel. Pasuk says, V'lovshu begadim acherim. It says they wear other clothing. V'lo yekachu esa'am b'vigdeim. They shouldn't sanctify the nation with their clothing. Rashi over here explains, V'lo garsinan v'karvu el asher lo amdahu kra lo gabe sheris ksiv el gabe begadim shachlu behen v'lo efsher lo ukme b'yom HaKippurim. Rashi says don't have a particular girsa because that pasuk is certainly not talking about Yom Kippur. Rather, we have the pasuk here that we quoted. Ela mehaikra mosiv uvitzeisam el chatzer achitzona v'gomer. Pasuk we're quoting over here is uvitzeisam el chatzer achitzona. That's this pasuk over here in Yecheskel. The full pasuk reads uvitzeisam el chatzer achitzona el am yivshatu es bigdeim asher hema mesharsim bam v'inichu osam belishkos hakodesh v'lovshu begadim acherim. That's the key phrase. They put on other clothing. V'lo yikachu esam b'vigdeim. So that's the pasuk we're talking about over here. Now you can say that this pasuk in Yecheskel is talking about Yom Kippur. It talks about the fact they don't wear wool. Certainly that part of the pasuk is talking about Yom Kippur, because other times in the year, there are garments you wear that have wool. The me'il has tchelis, it has wool, the choshen, and the ephod have tchelis, which is wool. In any case, what does it say in this pasuk? It says later, it says that they put on other clothing. And right now we think the pasuk means the pasuk means when the Kohen Gadol comes back to do more avoda in the afternoon on Yom Kippur, he wears other linen garments. He doesn't wear the original ones. And now since this halacha is not clear in the Torah, it's like a halacha of a tradition, so Yecheskel comes along and puts a pasuk to this halacha. And Rashi just points out, this last part of the pasuk where it says he shouldn't sanctify the people with the begadim, that's a different idea totally. That part of the pasuk simply means when he goes back to the people after the avoda is done, he should wear bigdei chol. So in any case, the Gemara now says, what does this pasuk mean when it says begadim acherim? Doesn't it mean that the Kohen Gadol wears nicer clothing in the afternoon? The opposite of what we said on the previous Amud. And the Gemara says, no, acherim pechusim mehen. It actually means he wears inferior clothing. He wears clothing that are not as chashuv. Rashi says, if not for the fact that it means nicer clothing, why write acherim? Doesn't it imply it shouldn't be similar to the first clothing? And the Gemara says, lo pechusamein. It's not similar, but it's worse. The reason Rashi says is because the first avoda was important and it gave a kapara. This is just to clean out the area. You're removing things from the Kodesh Kodashim. It shouldn't be sitting there. Therefore, the pasuk is saying you should wear lesser clothing. And the Gemara continues, Tani Rav Huna bar Yehuda. Rav Huna bar Yehuda taught, V'amri lo Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Some say it was Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda who taught, after the Kohen Gadol finishes doing the public avoda, Kohen sha'asalo imo ksones. If a Kohen, his mother made for him the garment personally, lovsha, he can wear that garment, v'ovid bo avodas yochid, and he can do the avoda that's the private avoda, that's not the public avoda wearing that garment. But he has to give it over that garment officially belongs to the tzibur. Rashi over here says, Avodas yochid hotzas kaf u'machta. That's a reference to taking the kaf and the machta out of the Kodesh Kodashim. She'ena tzricha letzibur. That's not a public avoda. El lefisha mutelas olav lefanos as hamakom lefikach korei lo avodas yochid. He just has a responsibility to clear the area, so it's called an avodas yochid. Uvilvad she'im tzrena letzibur. But he does have to give it over to the tzibur to sof me avodas tzibur, because at the end of the day, it is still an avodas tzibur. Kach nira ba'enei. That's what Rashi thinks is happening over here. V'ani shamati, Rashi says, I heard another pshat. Avodas Yachid Mikra Parsha, that Avodas Yachid refers to the point in time when the Kohen Gadol reads the Parsha. The Tanan b'masnisim korei be'itzilis lovan mishalo. It says he reads in his own garment. V'kashali begava, but Rashi says that's difficult. The lo Tanan hosam uvilvad shiim serena letzibur, because it doesn't say anything over there about giving it over to the tzibur. So that's why Rashi prefers the explanation that it's when he's clearing out the kaf and the machta. In any case, the Gemara says, Pshita, it's obvious that he should be able to do the avodah, as Rashi says, Pshita de Ovid ba kevan damid moser letzibur de tziburi. Obviously, he can do the service in this garment if he gave it over to the tzibur. It's a regular garment that belongs to the tzibur. Why would we think he can't do the avodah in it? So the Gemara says, no, I might think we're afraid he doesn't really fully, with his full heart, donate it to the tzibur. Kamash Malon comes to teach us we're not concerned about that. It's fine as long as he says he's donating it to the tzibur. Amru olav al Rabbi Yishmael ben Pavi. They said about Rabbi Yishmael ben Pavi, she'astalo imo ksones shalmeya mana. His mother made for him a ksones of 100 mana velovshin. He wore that. V'ovid ba avodas yachid. And again, he did the private avoda in that garment to Masar l'tzibur. When he gave it over, he donated that garment to the tzibur. Amru alav al Rabbi Lazar ben Charsam. They said similarly on Rabbi Lazar ben Charsam, she'astalo imo ksones mishtei ribo. His mother made him a ksones. It was 20,000 dinar. V'lo hinichu echav ha'kohanim l'lovsha. But that, the Kohanim, the other Kohanim, did not allow him to wear that because he looked naked. In other words, it was like a translucent garment. You could see right through it, so they didn't allow him to serve in that. Gemara says, is that really true? Could you really see through it? Didn't the master say that the threads, they were intertwined, doubled over 6 times, meaning they were very thick threads, so how could you see through it? Amar Abaya says, Kechamra b'mozka, it's like seeing wine in a very thick glass. Rashi says, Kechamra b'mizka kayayin hanira michutz l'kli zechuches, ve'afa pisha zechuches ava, even though the glass is very thick, so you could still see the wine though. So too, when it came to this linen garment, even though it was very thick, you were still able to see a little bit through the garment, and therefore the Kohanim did not want him to serve in those garments. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Ani v'asher v'rasha, if you have a poor person, or you have a wealthy person, or you have a wicked person, boin ladin, who are coming to judgment. La'ani omrim lo, to the poor person they say to him, Ibnei malu asakta b'Torah, why didn't you learn Torah? Imomer ani hayisi, if he answers that I'm poor, v'tarad b'mezonosai, I was busy with my food, omrim lo, klom ani hayisa yoser mehillel, we say back to him, were you any poorer than Hillel? Hillel was extremely poor, and he was still able to learn Torah. Amru alav al Hillel hazaken, they said about Hillel hazaken, shebechol yom v'yom hayosem estaker b'tarpik, every single day, he would only make a tarpik that was an amount of money. Chetzu hayanose l'shomer beis hamedrash, half of that he would give to the guard at the beis medrash in order to get in and learn. V'chetzu leparnasas anshe beiso, and the other half he would use for his own parnasa and the parnasa of his household. Panachas lo motzel istaker, one time he wasn't able to make any money at all. V'lo hinichu shomer beis hamedrash likones, so the guard in the beis medrash didn't let him enter. Olav v'nisla v'yashav al pi aruba, so he went up on top of the roof, on top of the skylight, kadesh yishma divra l'kim chayim mipi shmaya v'avtalion, so he would hear the words of the living God from Shmaya and Avtalion. Amru, they said, also Yom Erev Shabbos, that day was Erev Shabbos. With Kufas Teves, it was Teves, meaning it was the winter time. V'yard all of Shelag min Hashamayim, and it snowed from the heavens. Kishol Amud Hashachar, when the dawn came, Amr lo Shmaya l'Avtalion, Shmaya said to Avtalion, Avtalion achi, Avtalion my brother, b'chol yom habayis meir. Every single day, this base medrash is light. V'yom afel, and today it's dark. Shema yom hama'unanhu. Maybe it's a cloudy day. They looked up, and they saw the form of a man on the skylight. And they went up, and they found on top of him, at a height of 3 amos of snow was on top of him. So they took him down, they bathed him, they put oil on him, they set him down, keneged hamadura, by the fire. Amru, they said, Roy zeh l'chalel olav es Shabbos. This person is fit enough that we can be mechal Shabbos for such a person like Hillel. Rashi over here says, La'ani omrim kolomarim bo bezin shalamala l'chayev aniyim al yedei Hillel. If the bezin shalamala wants to make aniyim chayev for not doing what's proper, they can use Hillel as an example. The ashirim al yedei Rebbe Lazar. Wealthy people can be found guilty through Rebbe Lazar. Uturudi hayetzer al yedei Yosef, and those who have the yetzer hara bothering them, so they can be made mischayev through Yosef. Yesh pischon pel baladin l'chayvim. There's an entryway for a baladin to make them chayev using these examples. Tarpik was sela medina, that was a kind of coin of the Medina. Shu chatzi dinner, it's equal to a chatzi dinner. Kach mefurish b'ksubas, that's explained in ksubas. Pirku means pirku. Masay ashelag me'olav means they took all the snow off of him again, and then they brought them down and they bathed him. And they put him by the fire. And the Brisa continues, Ashir, to the wealthy person, what do they say? Omrim lo, they say to him, malu asakta b'Torah, why didn't you learn Torah? And Omar Ashir hayisi, if he says I was wealthy, v'tarad hayisi ben chasan, I was very busy with my property. Omrim lo, they say to him, Klum Ashir hayisa yoser me Rebbe Lazar, were you more wealthy than Rebbe Lazar? Amru Olav al Rabbi Elazar ben Charsam. They said about Rabbi Elazar ben Charsam, Sheiniach lo aviv elef hayoros be'abosha, that his father left him 1,000 villages in the dry land. Uchenegdon elef sfinos bayam, and he also left him 1,000 ships at the sea. Uvechol yom v'yom, and every single day, no till no shel kemach, he took some flour, aksefo on his shoulder. Umahalech me'ir le'ir, medina le'medina, and he went from city to city and from Medina to Medina, lil Torah, in order to learn Torah. Pamachas, one time, Mitzau Avad of his servants found him, v'yasu ba'angoria, and they demanded the tax from him. Amar Len, he said to them, "V'vakoshem, you can please, hanichuni, let me go. V'elech lil Torah, let me go and learn Torah." Amru lo, they said to him, "Chaye, Rebbe Elazar ben Charsam, by the life of Rebbe Elazar ben Charsam, she'ein manichan oscha, we're not going to allow you to go." And the Brisa continues, "Umiyamav lo halach v'ra'os," on all the days of his life, he never went and saw his property. Eliyoshe v'osik b'Torah kol hayom v'chol halayla. Rather, he sat and he learned Torah all day and all night. And Rashi over here explains, Angoria avoda sar, here that refers to the work you have to do for the general of the city. V'avodas atzmo, it was his own work. He was the one who owned the cities. But they didn't recognize him. They thought he was one of the residents who has to do the tax that everybody else has to do. And the Brisa continues, Rasha, what do they say to the Rasha? Omrim lo, they say to him, why didn't you learn Torah? If he says, I'm very good looking and I was very distracted by my Yetzer Hara, Omrim lo, they say to him, were you better looking than Yosef? Amru alav al Yosef Atzadik. They said about Yosef Atzadik, B'chol yom v'yom ha'isayishus Potifar meshadloso b'dvarim. Every day the wife of Potifar would seduce him with words. Begadim shalov shalo shachris, lalav shalo arvis. Begadim shalov shalo arvis, lalav shalo shachris. The clothing she wore from in the morning, she didn't wear in the evening. The ones in the evening, she didn't wear in the morning. Amr lo, she would say to him, Hishamali, listen to me. Amr lo lav. He said to her, no. Amr lo harini chovashtech b'veis asur. And she said to him, I'm going to put you in prison. Amar lo, he said to her, Hashem matir asurim. Hashem frees those who are bound. Hareini kofefes komasach. She said to him, I'm going to bend you over from being upright. Hashem zokef kefufim. He said, Hashem straightens those who are bent. Hareini misame eseinecha. She said, I'm going to blind you. Hashem pokei achivrim. He said, Hashem is the one who allows the blind to see. Nosna lo elef kikar kesef l'shmo elea. She gave him 1,000 kikar kesef in order that he listened to her, lishka vetzla liosima, to lay with her, to be with her. V'lo ratza l'shmo eleha. He didn't want to listen to her, lishka vetzla bolam hazeh. He didn't want to lie with her in this world. Lios ima liolam haba. He didn't want to be with her in the next world. Nimtzat comes out. Hillel mechayev esu aniyim. Hillel is mechayev the poor. Rabbi Elazar ben Charsam mechayev esu ashirim. Rabbi Elazar ben Charsam is mechayev the wealthy. Yosef mechayev esu rishoyim. And Yosef is mechayev those who are the rishoyim. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah. Balo etzel paro. He came to his par, to his bull. This is the Kohen Gadol. Uparo hayomed ben ulam v'lam mizbeach. And the bull was standing between the ulam, between the entrance hall and the mizbeach. Rosha l'darim, its head was facing to the south. Upanav l'mayriv, but its face was turned towards the west. V'hakohen omed b'mizrach upanav l'mayriv. The Kohen was standing in the east and he was facing to the west. V'somech shtei yadav olav u'misvadi. He put his 2 hands on the bull and he confessed as follows. V'kach hayomer, he said as follows. Ana Hashem avisi poshati chatasi lefanecha. Hashem, I have sinned before you. Ani uvesi, myself, my household. Ana Hashem kaperno la'avonos v'la'peshoyim v'la'chatoyim. Hashem, forgive us for all the sins. Shavisi v'shaposhati v'shachatasi lefanecha ani uvesi, that I and my household have sinned before you. Kakosa b'zoros Moshe avdecha. This is as written in the Torah of Moshe, your servant. Ki vayom hazeh yechaper v'gomer. It's on this day that Hashem you'll give kapara. V'hein onen acharav baruch shem kavod malchuso li'olam voed. And they answered him after he said this. They answered baruch shem kavod malchuso li'olam voed. Rashi over here explains Rosha l'darim upanav l'mayriv. It says that the animal's head was to the south and its face was to the west. Mefarish b'Gemara, the Gemara explains Sha'okim Rosho l'tzad ha'heichel, that the animal bent its head towards the heichel. The kaboy taima ma'ilo muki le'lehedya zanavo le'mizrach v'rosh l'mayriv. The Gemara is going to ask, why not just stand the animal straight, have its tail, its back to the east, and have it face directly to the west? Why do you have to turn its head towards the west? The Gemara will discuss. V'hakohen omed b'mizrach. The Kohen stood in the east, meaning achorav le'mizrach, meaning his back was towards the east and he was facing the west. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph.